Hello, eighth graders. This is Mr. DeFord. I just wanted to briefly kind of go over the assignment that I had loaded onto Google Classroom. That's going to take the place of our normal reading notes that we take for each chapter. So for chapter 13, we're going to do something a little bit different. It's called the Creating an American Identity menu of options. What you will see in this chapter is it's all about how, when we were a young country in the early 1800s, how we started to form an identity in terms and form our own unique culture, and that's what this chapter covers. So, as such, Ms. Kroll and I thought we would do something different that would kind of give you some choice, but also incorporate some of those aspects of culture that you're reading about in this chapter. So, to get things started, you'll be using chapter 13, pages 252 to 251 for information, and you're going to select one activity from each category, and that's important because, yeah, this can look overwhelming if you think you have to do all of them, but remember, you're only choosing one activity from each of these four categories. It's going to equal 25 points, so just a little bit more than a normal reading notes packet. Let's start with talking about the appetizer. So the first thing you're going to do is read 13.2. When you do that, you'll get out a piece of paper. You will create a T-chart on that piece of paper, and you will compare what you read in 13.2 about America then versus America now, and you will have 5 things listed on each side. I feel like this is the most simple of all the things that we're asking you to do for this assignment. But basically, this section right here, 13.2, talks about things like how we started to develop our symbols and values. So this is just a good chance for you to think about how we've changed since that time period. So for the entree, you'll see that this is worth 10 points. This is the one that is the mode that requires the most effort from you of all the options. And so you have a choice. You can draw pictures if you're a visual person, if you're someone who feels like you can have artistic talent, to represent early American art, music, and literature, and you have to include captions on those pictures, which is basically like an explanation, and you have to explain how it formed an American identity. So, for example, let's say that you were reading about early American literature, and you read that one of the major themes was how people were moving into the frontier, and they stressed rugged individualism. And there was famous stories about like Davy Crockett. You might draw a scene of the frontier of someone who's moving into it, a Davy Crockett-like scene, and then your caption would explain how that was one of our values that we developed in our time was individualism. Then you would do something similar for both music and art, and bada bing, bada boom, you're done. If you're not someone who's inclined to do something visual, then what you will do is you'll do a travel log. So one person who you'll read about in this chapter was a very famous tourist who came to America who's named Alexis de Tocqueville. He was from France, and he came here visiting to see how our country was unique. And that's kind of what I want you to do for this part. So if you want to not do the art part, but rather you want to write a journal entry, you'll looking at the same 3 categories, art, music, and literature, and you'll write 3 entries, each about 5 or so sentences, and they will basically explain what makes America unique. So for example, let's say that you are reading about the music, and you read about cotillions, which is a type of formal dance that was popular in the 1800s. Your journal entry might talk about how you stumbled upon a cotillion while you were traveling in the South, and then you could describe what you see from the things that you hear, the music, to the way people were dressed. That would be a journal entry. And you would, again, do the same thing for something art-related and something literature-related. Again, this is a 10-point part of the assignment. Onto the side dish. So for this one, you have 3 options, and it's worth a total of 5 points. So again, you have to do one of the 3 things. First option, you can draw a political cartoon with a caption about one of the events or the people in the era of good feelings. This is section, as it says, 13.3. So when you read this section, you'll read about a lot of different things that did develop during America in this time, such as the need for national roads, a national bank. Basically, this is a time when we tried to build up our own economy through infrastructure, and a lot of things could lend itself to a political cartoon, from any of the people you read about to any of the things that they signed into laws during this time. Really, what I would say for a political cartoon is just a drawing that has a bend that has a certain point of view about an event or person that you read about in the section. If you want to keep it a little bit more simple, you can just write a paragraph about one of the people or events that are mentioned anywhere in this chapter and explain why they are significant to how they formed our American identity. So, for example, let's say that you are reading about early American art and you stumble upon John James Audubon. You could write a paragraph about why he's significant to our artistic scene now and how he also helped America to develop. Finally, last option for this one, you could write a verse to a song that celebrates or describes one of the events or people in this chapter. So I've left an example here for a video that we watched last chapter on the Battle of New Orleans, where they wrote a hero song about Andrew Jackson and his role. Well, there's a lot of heroes in this chapter as well. So if you want to, you can write a verse for a song that celebrates about something or someone that kind of led to our national identity. One verse, a paragraph, or one political cartoon, 5 points. Finally, the last thing you will do is the dessert. The dessert is also worth 5 points. We've seen these options before when we were learning about the Bill of Rights, or some of you guys got to this. You could do a crossword puzzle. This links to an online crossword puzzle maker. You have to do 15 words, any term or person associated with this chapter. The non-technological option, if you want to stay away from that, is you could just create a 10-question test. They can be open-ended questions, multiple choice questions, fill in the blank. However, you have to provide an answer key if you do this one. And then finally, Kahoot. If you want to make a Kahoot, you can do that. Those would all be obviously multiple choice questions. You have to create 10 of them. I will also include on the same Google assignment a tutorial for how to save that Kahoot to not save it, so share it with me. So that's it. That's the entire assignment. Altogether, you have to do 4 things, some of them very simple, some of them a little bit more complex, but none of them should take a great deal of time. This should take roughly, Ms. Krill and I assume, between 2 to 3 class periods. So we'll be finishing this up early next week. You can see the due date on Google Classroom. I'll see you guys on Monday. Don't feel like you need to rush through and get this all done today in class. It's not the intent. The intent is that you just kind of start to read the chapter, get exposed to it, get the appetizer done. You should probably be in the midst of working on your entree by the time class ends, but who knows. And then we will get back to this next week. Good luck.